I'm honored to introduce our next speaker in session. Dave Hunter of Crown Bees is passionate about bees and other pollinators and food resiliency. You can learn more about Dave by visiting the speaker section of the conference platform. Dave is here today to talk to us about how to increase the visibility of local food in and around your community. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Linda. It's good seeing you. So, glad to be here. I'm Dave Hunter with Crown Bees. I'm the owner, been the founder for quite some time. I'm going to be presenting to you a, let me go here, local actions, things that you can do to consider more of a sustainable food future for your community. So through this discussion, we're going to talk about environmental challenges that you've probably all heard. We'll dig a little bit into some ecological things that we're maybe making mistakes with our farmlands and food production. We'll then talk briefly about who's doing what, and then finish the bulk of this with local solutions that you can consider for your community. So let's get going. We want to talk about some world messes that are occurring out there, and they're kind of going faster than we'd like to believe. I live in the Seattle area, and last June we had this big heat dome that was wild. This was the first event that the scientists of the world said, wow, that's caused directly because of people. Nothing could be Earth related. Thanks. This is June, and so we're experiencing normally upper 70s, maybe lower 70s, and then to get hit with 104, 110, 112 in our yards where we've never seen that ever. It was wild. I in fact had, you looked at my backyard and I had hydrangeas. No, they were just wiped out things. And the damage was there on my ferns, our Douglas firs, the needles kind of got burnt on the side that faced the sun. Well, it slightly repairs itself, but it's a concern for the future for us. Heat domes. Boy, hurricanes racing through. I don't have to tell any of you on the East Coast what the damage these named hurricanes is to keep on sliding through. One interesting thing about Ida was with so much excess moisture due to the heat, you had significantly more flooding, significantly more action out here in the Northeast, which is probably going to be something that'll be occurring more in the future. And it's just not here in the US. We're seeing this in Germany, we're seeing this elsewhere in the world. Little extra temperature does kind of cause some issues. On the west side of the country, boy, droughts where we've never had them before. Lake Mead down low, the Colorado River that feeds California agriculture down into Mexico is a concern. And when you throw that much drought onto places that have forests, this is what you get. Well, we didn't get into witnessing it here around the Seattle area, but I had a FEMA, Federal Emergencies Maintenance person in my backyard last summer and said, as he's looking at my hillside and there's big leaf maples towering 100-foot trees and Douglas firs and cedars, he goes, gosh, Dave, in probably 10 years, this environment's gonna be too dry. All of those trees will have to come down or we'll be facing fires here. It is. And the last little piece that we kind of do to ourselves, not maybe environmental, but the plastics. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but understanding that plastics, they just don't biodegrade, they photodegrade. They break into tiny little pieces that get dropped into our waterways, into our lakes, and our oceans, into our fish that we eat. And it's a big deal. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but it's we need to really consider what we're doing with single-use plastics and what you are considering with it as well. So let's get a little closer. Let's talk about unhealthy food growing practices. With the part here is I need you to understand the basics of what I'm doing so that you can be making decisions yourself. Okay, let's just talk again, global warming, climate change. You're either getting huge, big droughts or you're getting floods. Either one of those things are the extremes. But underlying all of this, I'd like you to consider When you go out to a field that hasn't seen anything in a long time, or you go to the woods or wherever you're at, you don't ever see dirt connected to the sun. There's always a plant growing in it. So the plants are always shading the dirt. Our farming practices, when we expose the dirt, allows the sun to come in, kills the top layers of the dirt, the wind come along and pick that dirt up, or the rains come in and carry that dirt into trenches, into rivers, into the ocean. We're losing. It's like a research paper I probably read 2 years ago. Said 2 years ago, they think there's 35 to 36 more turns of the soil worldwide because of this farming practice. We just don't get, and it's everywhere. People are always thinking about overturning your soil, dropping in things, and they just don't appreciate this isn't how our world exists. Our world exists with everything covered. If you look at the floods, more plants that are holding that soil in place, you don't get the soil moving on down the stream. So the other piece, when we think through monoculture, so monoculture, where you've got hundreds of acres of one thing, apples, soybeans, corn, whatever you're doing, this isn't natural again. And because nature doesn't work this way as monoculture, nature works to fight it. So they fight it in means of, boy, here's so much lettuce, let's go get in something that eats lettuce. Okay, there's root rot and fungal and diseases that just spread through because these plants are all so tightly put together without any boundaries, anything to separate it. So the answer is today, when you're fighting nature, you just spray the crud out of it. We get it. It happens everywhere. And whether it's in your yard and you're spraying because you're told to, or whether you're out in farmlands because you have to, that's your livelihood, this is an error. This farming practice is an error that we might want to consider. So now, who's thinking this thing through? Globally, there's lots of researchers. You have the Paris Climate Agreement that the US rejoined just a bit ago. You have the Farming Agricultural Organization, part of the UN. You have nonprofits out there. You have surprisingly brand new farmers. The new farmers realize there's a mess going out there, and many of them are considering more regenerative, more organic farming techniques that aren't that bad. So I'm going to say new farmers are change makers. But the places that aren't moving that fast, your governments, your bureaucrats, and these are worldwide, they're buffered by companies that vote these people in, and the large companies are very concerned with their profits today. Very few think a long ways out. It's all about today. And so there's not a lot of action going, more kicking the cans down the road. There's a lot of talk. And then you look at the oil industry, I think they're kind of getting it, but boy, there's between them and ChemAg, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs with people with salaries, with homes and families to support, that if you try to close that thing down, where would those people go? Well, today it's not that easy, and so they fight for their jobs. Big ag, where you have thousands of acres or whatever, and they're getting their subsidies from the government. It's hard fighting big ag because they're so big and they're so prevalent with their ownership of land. And lastly, even down to just us, our desire for anything. I want it now. Do I need to change? No, I'd rather have you change or my neighbor change. We're kicking the cans of, to our future generations, our kids and their kids. And it's, we all, as a planet of people, need to do more. So when we look at the complexity of all of this, world hunger and climate change, it starts with you and I, which expands to a community, making a difference, which then pulls into a state, into a country, and then global. But all of this starts with just us. So now let's shift into, that was kind of the sad part of the world. Let's go into where we can head. What can we do ourselves? So prioritizing healthy food for your community. I promise you, nature isn't monoculture. Nature is polyculture. Poly meaning many. they're in my yard. I don't spray anything, and still my roses come up and things eat my aphids, and I don't do anything. Okay, my grass still grows. In a monoculture environment, we'll find, as we'll talk a little bit deeper, there are more profit per acre than with monoculture. Takes a little bit of effort. There's a farm around me that gets it. Oxbow Farms is in Duval, Washington. They've got maybe 240 acres that they own, and they only really grow on 12, depends upon the year, 12 to 30 of those acres with just a staff of 30 people. So roughly 1 or 2 people per acre funds them. They are successful and profitable. They're nonprofit, but it's really an interesting analysis of a farm that gets it. So what's going in there? Let's unpack this just a little bit. So they believe in regenerative farming. So think through conventional is monoculture and chemicals. Then you've got organic, no chemicals. But regenerative farming is a little different, where they're thinking through the sun hitting the dirt. They're thinking through the soil more than anything else. They need to have soil that's alive and helps their plants thrive. So they're really only planting what thrives best locally. They aren't growing bananas or oranges out here in Western Washington state. They're rotating their crops so the soils can recover. Their fields are actually left fallow. They periodically leave them empty so the nutrients can rebuild with whatever plants they just toss onto there. Pest management, they bring in beneficial pests. They bring in flowers and other things that brings in pests, beneficial insects that would be eating the pests. So they try to have a natural environment. They make their money off their consumer-supported agricultural members out there. People locally around them within a 1 or 2 mile radius buy the food from their farms that's tasty, local, fast, and there's no extra layers of middlemen between consumer and farmer. It's a really good concept. I really appreciate that they can do this. So to you, what CSAs are near you? So as administrators or whatever part you are in your community, learn who the regional farms are near your community. Do they incorporate sustainable farming practices? Ask, learn. If you do have CSAs and you have farmers markets, try to connect the two, invite them in there, let them have a free booth, but get them in there so they can get more members and expand what they're doing. If there are few, find your progressive farmers and talk them, have them research into becoming CSAs. Bypass those middlemen that could you then get, these farmers making far more yield per acre than they are with their current conventional practices. Interesting piece about lowering your carbon footprint. And I really am going to say I'm preaching to the choir on this one. Every morning I toss a banana into my smoothie. That banana doesn't grow around me at all. It's from South America, it's from Central America. So that plane, that boat that gets out here is all on my back. I get it, okay? But now let's think through, in the old days, everyone had a lot of beans. They learned how to pickle beans. Everyone had onions and carrots and peppers at different times of the year. Okay, so to celebrate this, to bring this back in, how would you incorporate something locally, seasonally local in your community? Probably through your local paper. We've got a Woodinville Weekly. I'll show you in a bit who they are, but having an article once a month saying, look, it's tomato season. Here's recipes, here's how you should store and can, but to bring that knowledge back to your people at the right time is best through media. Edible landscaping. I absolutely love what America in Bloom does for flowers and beautification within a city. Can you imagine if you expanded that one step further? And you brought in, okay, now this is in right-of-ways. This is on business streets. You brought in cherries, tomatoes, and beans, and I don't know, apples along the roads. What if you brought this in there and they're still fed in the same pots, but you have strawberries going down there and people on the fly, because it's their community, could walk on by and pull a ripe strawberry off? Wouldn't that be cool? How about community garden plots? This whole piece right here, this is downtown Seattle, okay? This is on a rooftop. It's called Up Gardens, Seattle, and it's on top of a parking garage. And the community grows things on top of that parking garage. What about bringing more, more food in empty lots where people can come in and own their own thing? Around here, we call them pea patches. Wouldn't that be cool? And lastly, bringing in school yards. Around Washington State, I'm going to say not all, but practically every elementary school has a growing plot of some nature. We're trying to expand that into junior high and high schools. Your children, our children, need to know it's not the food fairy that drops the bananas off to the store. No, it actually comes from someplace with dirt, and you pull the carrot out and you break off all the dirt and just munch something fresh from the ground. Understand where food comes from, to me, is important. Okay, here's a little shift. Because my little town, Woodinville, and a lot of my friends got a little upset with that heat dome on there, it messed with my yard. And it's caused by, not me, it's caused by governments and ChemAg and oil, all these places out there that don't care about my yard. It impacted me, okay? So what could we do? We're headed something. We're headed towards change. So imagine engaging an entire community to change. So Woodinville, Washington, we're between Seattle and my little town, 25, 30 minutes, maybe 45, a little bit of traffic, okay? Not that far away. All of the wineries of Eastern Washington have a tasting room in our place. So 160, 180 maybe tasting rooms and spirits and beers. We have a lot of, that's our little touristy thing. Come out here. Population in the center, maybe 14,000. If you expand out, maybe 70,000 to the unincorporated Woodinville. Nice town, okay? Hot air balloons. It's kind of a pretty place. We've already in place, September 10th, 22. We're going to have an environmental discussion fair. I think the word's going to change. We've got this approved. We're just working through what we're actually going to call it. But imagine, if you will, businesses sitting down with their customers, their constituents of the community, talking about what each other is doing for the planet. Okay, this isn't really a fair where there's music and balloons and popcorn and everything. This is a fair of action. Let's discuss what I care in my company, and I want to talk it over with you, my consumers. So out of our, we probably have maybe 400 or 500 some businesses that are just in our little proper town. We're bringing all of the farmers in. Anything on a CSA, any farmer, we're having sections. So take a big, 2 or 3 acre parcel, and we'll have little sections. Here's food, here's transportation. We'll have signage. They'll be having people walking them through. Go pick your section and meet the companies that care in those sections. So the ones that really matter to us: food production, waste. We have a recycling center in our town, utilities and energy, and getting the government involved. Our Chamber of Commerce we're getting as many companies as we can there. Transportation, do we care about electric? Do we care about our buses? Hospitality, we have hotels in town. We've got dentists and optometrists. Can you imagine going, here's a dentist across the way, and he says, I'm not going to go out and recycle my fillings, but in my dentistry, we separate our waste products, we conserve our water. Here's the things that we're trying to do to minimize our footprint on this planet. And across the way, someone's giving advice or talking it through, okay? Education, we've got some universities. We're going to have principals from high schools and junior highs and elementaries there. We have some manufacturing, pre-core, they make fitness center stuff. We're going to have them there. Construction, technology, we're really close to Microsoft and Amazon. We're going to see what we can do to bring them in here just to have a position, a conversation with the other side of the table, the users, okay? To do this, it's not just going to be up in front and there it is. We've already partnered with a couple local papers. Here's the Woodinville Weekly, just a nice little, 3 or 4 reporters, and they're profitable. They've already agreed they're going to be writing 7 to 8 or more articles over this next year to slowly bring in the hype, the pulse. Hey, it's coming. Here's the businesses involved. They're going to help us with press releases. We're going to try to get this thing bigger than us. It's not a one and done. It's purposely designed as a ripple event. We're going to toss our rock into the pond, hoping that the media and the understanding of what we're doing will carry beyond our city. We're going to have documents ready to hand off to you. Hey, here's precisely what we learned. Don't do this, but do that. Okay. Our intent is for action to create more beyond action. It's a ripple event. So simple to run. We're going to have the core. Rotary is a very doing organization. They've got 2 or 3 people that will actually be the ringleaders, and then past that ringleaders, we've got action leaders from other groups and parts of from the community and the civic parts of the government already all kind of saying they'll join in. High school and local college, they're going to help us with the promotion and getting these things out. And also, I'm a project management professional. It's important for me to have extensive and early planning so that the execution of what this happens will be simple. So we're really thinking through the elements to help you guys, if you choose to do this, be even more successful. Our expectations? We expect both businesses and communities to show up. We expect change. We expect businesses and our community, they're probably going to have some big impact locally. We're going to talk with the business ahead of time. We've got a local AMC theater out here. We're going to borrow one some morning and have a couple hundred people talk through expectation. What are you expecting to see? We hope that the businesses will listen to the individuals across the table. And because you saw this dentist or 2 there, we hope that more people are going to say, you know what, these guys get it. I'm going to go support them. So we hope there's going to be increased sales because of the businesses doing this. And we expect to be watched. On the waste side of things, whether our waste is in the ocean or we're running out of landfill stuff, 1/3 of the food of the world is thrown away every year. 1/3. It's phenomenal. Just is. Okay. And again, I just want you to see this a little closer in. The plastic bags every single day, we don't think about it. 20 years of life. Those straws out here in the Northwest, we've made plastic straws illegal. They hang around 200 years. Oh my gosh. And the plastic bottles, those plastics, sure, they're recyclable, but we aren't really recycling them. You walk around, they're thrown away. 450 years. The K-cups from coffee. I mean, we don't think these things through because today it's so simple to use and dispose of. It's the accumulation that our grandkids are going to see that we should be concerned with today. So I would, again, talk with your local media, ask for them to write articles about less packaging in stores. Wouldn't it be great if we did this? Gosh, talk with your grocery stores and see what they might do. I mean, really get them on board. Could you have products with less packaging be there? I think there's so much plastic in a grocery store. I mean, I've looked at it. Avoid, if you can, single-use plastics. Really, when you go out and get a takeout, they're always tossing in the spork and the knife and the plastic. Pull it out of there and say, I've got these things at home. Here, just start small. Gosh, bring your own reusable thing to wherever you're going. 1/3 of that food winds up in landfills. One of my teammates here helped me write this. She said, Dave, have people eat what's in their fridge before you go to the store. Well, that's an interesting thought. So, company, why Crown Bees? Well, okay. We are a food company masquerading as a bee company. Kind of off, okay? I get that. when you use our bees, so our bees are solitary. 90% of the 20,000 species of bees in the world, 90% are solitary. Okay. They belly flop into flowers, dry pollen on their hairy bodies. Okay. The next flower they land in, that pollen is just being spread. So they are pollen spreading insects, whereas a honeybee, everyone knows about them, loves them. That pollen, they've evolved to put that pollen sticky on the hind legs. And so most of the pollen heads back to the hive. They got 1,500 eggs that need that much pollen every day. So they're pollen spreaders and pollen takers. When you put a pollen spreader in your yard, in your community, in your field, you get more food because the pollen's being spread. That's my company. We have products, we have bees, we teach, okay? We care about sustainability. We're constantly updating. We're getting rid of products. We had plastic products a while ago. We're just trying to slowly get these out of there, pull our footprint down to talking the walk and walking the talk. We're really trying to think what we're doing first. We care about food security. We have community garden programs where we're working with elementary schools. We're giving discounts to help people get started to getting more food. Gosh, we work with researchers, universities, and nonprofits to understand the best practices. And where we learn these things, we push them to our people. So on our website, we have a thing called Bee Mail. Once a month, we say, do this. So what we learn, we pass. We just finished a great piece with Cornell University. Now for free, we got a Mason Bee EDU. We've got a full program that's ready for classrooms to teach. Solitary bees, those ones that we carry, they're great for communities because they're gentle, they're efficient pollinators, making them super safe for kids and pets. So takeaways, okay? Embrace regenerative farms. Your farmers, those farmers get more money per acre than monoculture. But it's real new. I mean, it's ancient. That's how nature works. But it's new because it's not what our grandfathers and fathers did. Learn a little bit about that. If you don't have CSAs, help create them, but bring them into your community. Celebrate them, have them talk about it. Make sure they are as profitable as possible. We don't want them throwing any of their food away. Help your community learn and support what's in season. Again, in a paper or something like that, hey, look, here's what we do with Concord grapes or something. Bring edible landscaping within your borders. It's really easy to do. It's just maybe not a petunia, it's a strawberry. Just something clever. See where you can reduce waste, whether it's the food that's thrown away, whether you're personally buying less, or you're helping people reduce the reliance on single-use plastics. And lastly, I'm a real communication hound. Partnering with your local news to spread what you're doing, we think is probably one of your key things. So I think this was recorded, so you can go find these things. It's not just what I said. We dig deep. We're trying to make sure that what we teach is truth, whether it's soil or CSAs. Here's some really great tools that you should be able to dig into yourself. So I want to say thanks. If you do want us to team with you, we're here to help. Send us a note to info@crownbees.com. I'm Dave Hunter. I'll probably wind up being the one talking with you. How can I help you be more sustainable, bring more food growth within your city? We're there. Thanks. Appreciate watching. Got any questions? Just ask away. I'll probably answer all these things within a day or so, just on typing back to you. Thanks again.